Let's start with the basics. Where are you from?
I was born in Soviet Union. I was born in Ukraine. It was used to be part of the Soviet Union Empire in Kiev, capital of Kiev. Right now spells in the right way, Kiev.
As opposed to Kiev.
As opposed to Russian way. Ukrainian way will be Kiev.
So you were born what year? When
1967. I'm old dude.
Oh, you're old. Oh, that's an old dude these days? All right, well,
and
good to know.
Yeah, I'm old enough that I was in the Soviet army in the end of Cold War, 86, 88.
Actually in the Soviet army?
Yes, I was in the Soviet army.
Doing what?
We had missiles in Western Ukraine. Ukraine actually, after Soviet Union collapse, was number 3 nuclear arsenal in the world. And it was a lot of tactical nukes in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually serving in Ukraine and guarding those nukes. And again, that was then top secret. But in 1993, Ukraine signed Budapest Memorandum, which been signed by U.S., Great Britain, and Russia, which is grotesque. And Ukraine gave all its weapons to Russia under guarantee of those 3 countries that they'll protect integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine.
So that is a large part of the conversation about whether the United States owes it to Ukraine to be active militarily. But before we get into that, let's talk about what contact you still have with Ukraine, what connections you still have to Ukraine, whether it's family, whether it's friends, business. You own a company called Swan Software Solutions, and you've been written up in the Indianapolis Business Journal and other places about the fact that you have coders there, you have people there, and you've been moving people out, moving people around, trying to get people to safety. Talk to me about the personal. Talk to me about the business.
Sure. On personal level, I have my father, my brother, and his wife trapped in Kyiv now, and my mom passed away because of Chernobyl in 1999.
Your mother died due to the radiation in Chernobyl?
Yeah, many people died.
I understood, but
Chernobyl did not kill immediately. Chernobyl was killing during next many decades. Everybody has cancer cells, and Chernobyl does very bad thing, and it triggers and it accelerated in many bodies this cancer, and a lot of people were dying. They could have probably lived another 20, 30 years if it not be Chernobyl radiation. In Kyiv especially, and around, a lot of people died because of cancer. It was no one knows exact numbers, but we know for facts that this radiation kills, and it's been a disaster. Again, numbers probably speculate over many 100,000, maybe close to 1 million people died.
Right.
So imagine what will happen if anything like this happen again. And so my dad, my brother, and my brother's wife there in Kyiv, and the reasons they could not leave, because my brother's wife paralyzed, so they could not move her outside of Beijing pretty much. She had a stroke, and my brother stays with her, and my father, he's very well-known scientist, and one of the people who built Soviet Union space program from computer side. He was working he was director of a special unit which was developing software for space and military back in USSR, and he had a big unit, like 3,000 people.
Right.
And he was in charge of many space programs and everything on this side. So basically, he's old guy, he's 83, he said, I'm not going to leave, I'm going to stay here. So they're in Kyiv. And when I talk to them just today, I'm trying to talk to them a couple times per day, if I can. They had I'm hearing sirens in the background, and yesterday I've heard explosions, and it's the reality of war. So from a business standpoint, I have also, from my personal standpoint, I have also my cousins there, and I helped one of my cousins to move to Western Ukraine. She's living with her husband close to its city where one of my offices are, Western. And another cousin, I helped her kids and wife to also move to Western Ukraine and live in a Western city. So that's a lot of family there. And from business standpoint, we have over 150 developers across 7 offices in Ukraine. And 3 of these offices, actually, I'd say Kyiv office, Cherkasy and Poltava in the western side of Ukraine, and Kyiv obviously by strategically as a main goal for this fascist, for those invaders.
So there's a, I think people would get to the first part here. Do you see yourself as Russian? Do you see yourself as Ukrainian? How do the people of Ukraine often see themselves? Because there was a big conversation about those people in the Donbas region, right? That's Southeast Russia, who see themselves as ethnically Russian. The whole term of ethnically gets people, in a bit of uproar. They don't have a way of describing it. I mean, you're referring to Putin as a fascist. I know how you feel, but talk to me about how your family sees themselves and how they see this attack right now.
So how about this? If I'll tell you that my father, he is half Russian, half Jewish. And my mom, half Polish, half Ukrainian. So I'm a Met. And when I talked to my dad last couple of days, and he's saying who doesn't speak Ukrainian, he's Russian and Jewish, lived all life in Ukraine. And he said, I hate those fascists, speaking of Russians. So I know a lot of Russians fighting on Ukrainian side. And probably something like this going on opposite direction. Some Ukrainians fighting on the Russian side. Mm-hmm. It's not about Russia and Ukraine anymore. It's about good and evil. Ukraine is only one country right now in civilized world fighting against evil, against my message very clear. If Ukraine will fall, that World War III will be imminent, because they're not going to stop, and they're not even. We'll talk about it more. Okay?
So no, but
I'm very passionate.
No, and I'm not here to stop you, but it's an interesting thing to hear, and it's not something you're hearing. That you don't view this as Russia versus Ukraine. This is you view this as a good versus evil fight, and there will be people who talk about problems with the Ukrainian government, problems with Zelensky in general. But is this the take? Is this the take that Putin's the fascist and he's the one who has to be stopped?
So back in 2014, Ukrainian army was very weak, and Putin probably had no help from Western world. So Putin had a good chances to probably occupy a majority of Ukraine. Ukraine is a nation, it's a very old nation. This whole Russian speculation about Ukraine was created by Lenin and all this stuff. Ukraine, Kyiv, my city, was established in the 5th century AD. Mm-hmm. And Kyiv established Moscow and many other cities. That's the reason without Kyiv, Russia does not feel that they're a full country. They're half country, they're not full country. Without Kyiv, Russia does not have history, because Russian history started pretty much in 17th and 18th century, in 1720, I don't remember exact date, when Peter the Great renamed Moscovia into Russia. So basically that was 300 years. Mm-hmm. And before, Moscovia was, for majority of its existence, since 13th century when it was established by Kiev Rus, was Ulus of Tatar-Mongol. Ulus, it means place which under Tatar-Mongol rule and paying taxes to Tatar-Mongolian. So it was not even an independent country until Ivan the Terrible. I think he was first who basically pretty much stopped paying.
Ivan the Terrible.
Stopped paying taxes to Mongols. Mm-hmm. So Ukraine is an old country, great history. And as I said, Russia does not feel itself full without Ukraine because they're thinking that we are the one nation. In reality, Ukraine in the last 31 years of its independence, I don't maybe like Zelensky, or I right now I like him much more because he showed balls, but I used to like old president and
Poroshenko.
Poroshenko, you're right, very good, very good.
We're trained here.
And I pretty much right now he showed balls, and I like it, and he's staying with people. It's great. It's honorable and decent, but Ukraine changed pretty much 6 presidents, democratically elected, when Russia in the last 22 years had changed none.
Right.
None. I mean, Medvedev, Putin, that was just play a game.
Right.
Shadow.
No.
So that tells you about Ukrainian democracy versus Russian, and it doesn't matter who you are. We have right now an Ukrainian army fighting, like a foreign religion. We have a Chechen fighting in Ukraine, Belarusian, Russian, Georgians, a lot of people from America, from Canada coming. So it pretty much becomes a,
And is that why you say it's much more, because the conversation you're having is about the pride that Ukrainians have in the history of Ukraine and what they've done and how much different, how much better than Vladimir Putin's Russia. But then you talk about all the people coming and you get back to this idea, this is a fight of good versus evil. Is the take, even before this, in Ukraine, that Putin is the enemy, that Putin is a fascist, and was there a knowledge that it was going to happen, that this was going to come one day?
That was always constant knowledge since starting in the beginning of probably this century. Ukraine and Russia had a conflict on the Tulsa Island in Black Sea back in 2004. Then it was Georgia, obviously. Then it was Crimea, 2014, and Eastern Ukraine, Donbass region. And I put article in 2014 in Current comparing Putin with Hitler, and saying that, I'm not saying that I can predict anything, but I was saying that sooner or later he will go with full forces against Ukraine.
So this, just to make it clear to everybody, you wrote an article in 2014 in something called Current, which is a local paper here in the central Indiana area called youarecurrent.com is the website, and they cover local stories in a lot of cities north of Indianapolis, and very, very popular. So you wrote that piece there. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Right. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for clarification.
I'm here to help. But you refer to him as Hitler. We hear that today, and it's people like myself, that's political prop, right? Everybody's got a comparison to Hitler. Everything's a comparison to Hitler.
Right.
But you aren't trying to play prop. You're saying what you're witnessing, what you're watching, that's an absolute comparison in your view.
Yes. Everything, if it was just hints of these atrocities and criminal acts which they're doing right now in Ukraine, that right now it's in full-blown scale of war they're waging, it shows there are more than 150 kids killed, confirmed. There are hundreds of kids wounded. The speculation, 10,000 of civilians, no one knows, because people are in Mariupol, which has become a new Stalingrad. They just had to bury people, to put people lay forever in a grave. They could not even identify names of the civilians because they were so severely injured. This horror goes across entire Ukraine right now, and these people. And I'm hearing Ukrainian podcasts when people are comparing who survived World War II and been under Germans. They even saying, old people, Germans were not so horrible like Russians right now.
You're hearing that from people?
I'm hearing this from people who survived under German occupation, 1941, 1943.
What is the take from your family and the people who you work with, the 150 employees that you have been trying to relocate some, others are working there.
Right.
What is their take? What is their theory about not when this ends? First, let's get into how this ends. Is this going to end with Ukrainians being able to fight for their freedom? Is the need for other nations, whether it be European nations or the NATO conversation, to get involved, which would really mean the free and thinking world?
World War III, yeah.
Well, you the second time you brought up World War III. We'll get to that in a moment. Is the belief that the Ukrainian people can fight this, whether it's guerrilla war or whether it's getting more help in terms of ammunition, weaponry, air defense systems, and they can beat back the Russians? Or is there a real cry for, no, we're going to need some help, otherwise this country doesn't exist anymore?
So Ukraine officially was ranked as the 20th country army in the world. Russia was number 2. Right now, we see on 27th days, Russia is no far where they're supposed to be.
That is true.
And not only this, Ukraine, in the last 4 weeks, generated so many new heroes, people demonstrating courage. And there's so many cases which I believe we'll know later, will be movies about it and books. Ukrainians will fight with bare hands. 500,000 people returned to Ukraine in last 3 weeks, because a lot of Ukrainians who work outside of Ukraine, Poland, Austria, Germany, they're coming back to fight. They understand they cannot get back out from country, because Ukraine right now, all male population from 19 to 65 should stay within country and fight. Women allowed to go, and children obviously. All sick people, male, but it's almost 500,000 people came to fight and defend Ukraine. And by the way, Ukraine has a very good history of resistance. Not many people in Western world knows that Soviet Union fought with Ukrainian army, called UPA, Ukrainian Повстанческая Army. It's a army they were fighting for independence of Ukraine from Soviet Union, and been fighting for centuries. But real fight last 80 years was after World War II was over, and this army of 120,000 people in Western Ukraine, in Carpathian Mountains in Western Ukraine and pre-Carpathian area region, were fighting this mighty Soviet multi-million people machine since 1942, when army was officially established, till 1958. So 16 years of fight without any help, support from West, without no hope, knowing that they're gonna die. They've been fighting against occupants and invaders. So that's the reason Chechen general who was leading Chechen war, Jahar Dudayev, who was the only one general from Chechen, unfortunately, in Soviet Union rank, he said, do not wake up Ukrainians. When you will wake up, Ukrainians will wake up. Russian sun will shut down. And that's what will happen. Ukrainians are waking up.
But there's no doubt. I mean, the fight has been incredible. And without question, there has been the realization that the Russian military, for all of the blowhardness, is not prepared. Either these Russian soldiers are not actually trained, or they were not really instructed of what their mission is. There doesn't seem to be a belief in the mission. There's reports of Russian soldiers shooting themselves to be able to get out of this war. But you have brought up now twice the concept of World War III. That is something that we hear almost as an attempt of scare tactic.
Yep.
To try and get the United States or get NATO allies to engage a no-fly zone. I want to hear from you what you believe and what your family believes regarding this idea of World War III. What does that mean to you?
In the last 3-4 weeks, showed the world that Russia is pretty much paper tiger. I mean, it has a Soviet Union history. I remember being in Soviet Army when we were serving those missiles and guarding them. Half of those missiles probably would never fly because they were no good. So I don't think something changed dramatically in Russian army since Soviet time.
Right.
So a lot of and right now you see Pentagon reports the bunch of the hardware does not work, a bunch of false starts and miscalculation and everything. So that's kind of right in this avenue. So World War III. The speculations that Mr. Führer, who sits in a bunker in Ural Mountains right now, he's very sick. And
You're calling Putin Mr. Führer.
He is Führer.
So make sure.
He is Führer. Yes, he's Führer. He's sick. He's preoccupied with this idea about Ukraine not nation. Ukraine must be part of mighty Russia. He's completely nuts. And for this crazy idea, 100 kids got killed, 1,000 people innocent. So he might be sick. There's some speculation on this case. And he might be dying. We don't know. And he might decide to have entire world taken with him. I don't know.
So the theory goes as follows on two pieces. There's a theory that Vladimir Putin has cancer and has had cancer and treatment for a while. Right. There's a theory that he has Parkinson's and it is affecting him. There's a theory that he has long-haul COVID, which has created more brain fog and has created some very bad military maneuvers. But when you talk about his desire, Vladimir Putin is someone who sees the fall of the Soviet Union as a personal disgrace. He's a former KGB agent, trained 15 years. I shouldn't even say former, once KGB, always at KGB.
By the way, he was very lousy KGB agent.
Is it the belief that he alone is so lost that he can start a World War III? Because to say that means there's nobody else within the Russian world around him, his orbit, that's willing to stop that from happening.
That's what we hope for, all people hope for, or something like good old Russian tradition when Tsar got killed. For some reasons, some of his close circle will just realize how bad it is, how bad it for Russia. Russia became in 3 weeks, with everything's going on, it became a North Korea. And by the way, it was funny fact, true story, when Russia asked North Korea to help, Kim Jong-il said, I'm crazy, but I'm not so crazy. So North Korea refused to help, by the way. So that's official fact. So, but back to World War III. You're right. There's a bunch of people should between when decision made and bottom got and really everything got started. So this something might not work in this chain. Second thing, it might be also a lot of speculation there because they want to. If America right now will be afraid of Russia and do what Russia tells, that you can do this nuclear terrorism across the globe. And tomorrow, Putin might say, hey, I want all American troops off from Europe. Otherwise, I'll push that button. And so we are going to do it again, and we're going to take all and completely destroy all NATO and everything because we will be scared of his threats. That's a nuclear threat.
The only reason I would make the argument that we have not engaged, for example, no-fly zone, that we have not engaged some other things is because there is a nuclear threat. And I will say to you, as I'm sitting here, I'm somebody who opposes the no-fly zone. I oppose putting troops on the ground. There are things that I think we should do as a nation, things we shouldn't do as a nation. I do believe in all the support in the world in terms of artillery, in terms of surface to air, the javelins, the stingers, and a host of things.
It's good.
That happens. And I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are with me in that theory. The question is your argument, is the argument of the people of Ukraine that, again, I go back to this, that they can't stop him. They can't stop even an inept military and the artillery shelling. They'll eventually lose the cities, eventually lose the nation if there isn't some other level of intervention. Is that how Ukrainians feel?
So I would say this. I would say, yes, he's using shelling. He's using Aleppo tactics in Syria. He's using tactics in Chechnya and Grozny, 94, 95. They're shelling cities and they're destroying and slowly making cities just desert. And Fly zone, I agree with you, Tony. I would not support fly zone as well. The reason simply, it's very difficult to control. Ukraine is a huge country. It's like Texas. So to control fly zone, tough. I mean, it's very difficult. Second, they still have the old artillery. They still have the old Grad system, which is a middle range missiles. They have still old. They have still old Tu-95M, which is strategic bombers developed by Soviets. They still have it. Grotesque is, in 1994, Ukraine gave Russia bombers, which are bombarding Ukraine right now under this Budapest memorandum. And those bombers can deploy missiles and bombs not even crossing the Ukrainian border. And that's what already happened. They've been in Russian territory and they just shell Ukrainian cities. So no-fly zone would not just resolve anything. What might resolve something? First, it's setting up a limited humanitarian corridor, say from Poland to Lviv, biggest western city in Ukraine, and at least provide some type of security to deliver food and supplies, because it's a humanitarian catastrophe right now on a bigger scale. There are 3 million people left Ukraine already. 9 million people, 9 million people, they're saying, been displaced in the western Ukraine right now. Craziness, because we have offices in western Ukraine, and I know a lot of my guys, they basically took refugees. So all apartments, you cannot find single empty room in neither of western cities in Ukraine.
Okay.
There's so many people moved. And here's the interesting question. If Russia came to liberate Ukraine, to Kharkiv is located 38 kilometers from Russian border. By the way, Russia is still fighting for Kharkiv. They did not take it.
Right.
Kharkiv will become, again, another symbol of resistance. And people from Kharkiv, and I know people from Kharkiv a lot, no one went to Russia, 38 kilometers. Everyone went to Lviv. It's 1,000 kilometers. So why? How come? What's the liberators when people don't want to go 40 kilometers versus 1,100 kilometers with their family and kids? This is nonsense. This is propaganda. And when you see this horrible city places of Kharkiv, Mariupol, Bucha, it's insane. It's a fascist. And as I said, I'm hearing old people who survived and still living, very few left, talking about Hitler troops being in Ukraine in 1941, 1943. They said what they see right now is much worse.
What is it that you would like to see the United States doing?
Okay, I think we need to find a way to give Ukrainians all possible Su and migs available in an old country of Warsaw Pact.
You're talking about the Russian air defense missile systems that NATO refers to as the SA-10 Grumble.
SA-10 Grumble. Like that. I'm talking about airplanes like a Sukhoi and MiG.
Okay.
So if we'll give S-300, which I know Slovakia is ready to give a couple in exchange of Patriots, please do it. If we will give MiGs and Su from Poland, that's 28 of them, and I've heard that there's some more in Romania. Mm-hmm. If that can be delivered to Ukraine, because Ukrainians know how to do
they know how to fix them? I mean, it's one thing to get the MiGs from Poland. It's another thing to make sure they can fly.
Yeah.
These are old planes.
Yes, I know.
You believe the Ukrainians have the tools, the technology, and the manpower to fix those?
Out of 78 planes in Ukraine has right now, they're all exactly the same, all planes. Unfortunately, Ukraine believe in this Budapest memorandum, believes that it will be protected in their integrity. They did not put much efforts to build military planes. Mm-hmm. As you know, they built good civil planes like Antonov,
right?
Like the biggest plane in the world, Mriya, which Russian fascists just destroyed in Gostomel Airport, north of Kyiv.
Okay.
I don't know why they did not take this plane to begin with.
They just destroyed it.
They just destroyed it. It's the biggest plane in the world. When it was humanitarian crisis, they used this plane 100 times to deliver. It's the biggest cargo plane in the world ever been built. So, and back in 1988, I remember I was in Gostomel with my father because he was again dealing with space program, and it was this Mria, and on top of Mria was Buran, only one Soviet space shuttle which was built.
Okay.
And Mria was taking Buran to Le Bourget, to Paris, for this airspace exhibition. It was 1988. I remember this very well. So they destroyed right now.
So let the MiGs go. Let other nations send things. This is something that President Biden has been opposed to. There are other people who are opposed to this idea, believing it would be a provocation. And the Ukrainian people say, yeah, we still need the stuff. I mean, is there any response to the idea of a provocation move from the MiGs, yet somehow not the Stingers and Javelins?
Mm-hmm. So Russia can already said to America, I believe, in Great Britain, and again, thank you to America and Great Britain, because it's this new world order. Ukraine see France, America, even despite all problems we have, we're still helping Great Britain. Poland become main hub for distribution. Baltic countries, and I'm in close contact with people from Baltic countries, from high top rank people who understand importance to Ukraine to survive, because they understand they'll be next, and they're helping Ukraine a lot. So thank you for all help. And my good friend and U.S. Congresswoman Victoria Sparks, who was born in near city Chernigov, which right now in ruins, northern from Kiev, and I know she's doing everything to help America, to help Ukraine, because she understands very clear. We talked with her about it many times. That if Ukraine will fall, it will not stop. They'll invade. So it's
and that's the belief, that if Russia is allowed to continue, Russia will not stop. Moldova will be next. The Baltics will be next. It will grow from there. But even though they have a military that clearly can't do the job,
they just have simply manpower. They just keep pulling these people. Okay, by numbers, even by numbers verified by U.S. Military, in last 4 weeks, been killed over 10,000 Russian troops, and between 15 and 2,000 Ukrainians. So ratio 1 to 5. Ukrainians already shut down over 100 Russian planes, helicopters, 500 tanks. It is insane. They are putting down with a
it's quite incredible.
Limited stuff they have, but courage. And I'm hearing stories because I have people, not only my developers and my relatives, I have my ex-military friends who right now went back to fight. And everyone who had military, if I would be living in Ukraine right now, I'll be right now in the front line. Here in US, we're doing a lot. So I feel like I'm fulfilling my mission, because we are raising money. And between me and my business partners and Swan friends, we raised over $100,000 already, well over. I would say 120, 130,000. We are gathering stuff, what needed in Ukraine. Like just this today, I sent 400 tourniquets to Ukrainian army, physically. We are buying vests physically in Slovakia and sending to Ukraine. And again, here I have a tremendous help from many people, Americans. We have a huge support from Polish, Baltic community, from Britain. I mean, it's insane. And this and in this new world order, some countries like Germany, France are looking weak, because some country like Hungary become almost like an enemy of Ukraine and supporting Russia. So this war changed a lot in perspective. I mean, sanctions great, but we need to really give Ukrainians long missiles, long range, so they can shut down those 295M, which are like 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers in the air.
Right.
Need to give them some more planes, and the rest Ukraine will do. We don't need to put troops on the ground. We don't need to risk American boys and girls. Ukrainians, even it's war, Ukrainian fighting for entire world. But if all will help, Ukraine will win.
I didn't get to ask you earlier, you serve in the Soviet Army, and yet we live in the same town in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get here?
It's a long story, but try to tell short. I came here because I was working related on Chernobyl and doing a lot of stuff on Chernobyl aftermath. I was a programmer, engineer, and we developed kind of cool applications. Back in those days, computers were slow and you had to be really good mathematician to develop good, slow, complicated algorithm. So they liked somehow what we developed here got known, and we got invited to work for a joint project. I came here as a visiting researcher in 1993 and to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and work on a project with Department of Energy, Department of Defense. And I thought I'm coming for 1 year, but my boss, who was a retired general, he liked what I did, and he put his contacts. I came with J1 visa, believe it or not, but they liked what we're doing, and they brought us back. And with F visa, I graduated. I got my third master from University of Tennessee. My first two masters I got it back in the USSR. Got my third master here, and my wife's pregnant with my first child, and I have $300 in my pocket, and my project with government is running out. It was 1996. Internet was just beginning, so I was sending every night. I had a goal. I said I need to send 100 physical mails every night to different employees looking for a job. Right. I wanted my boy to born here in US. And I got out of 1,000 physical mails I sent, I got 2 responses. One of them was from here, Indianapolis. And I came here in 96. I passed interview to work as a developer. I became a director of IT for some financial company. Become a director of IT, not even had green card yet. And then, I work for a state agency, director of IT, and realized that I need to go and try to do, because we already started to use my developers. It was the first time I started to use developers in Ukraine in 97 when I was working for a financial company. I realized that there's so much talent, and they've been underpaid, and we had need here in good development. I came to my boss and said, hey, let's try to use Ukrainians. And he said, I'm crazy, but said, okay, Alex, if you will lose, if project will be, you cannot achieve this project. I'm sorry, you had H1 visa, I have to fire you, you have to go back. Took this risk. And I remember it was no Skype, it was phone.
Right.
AT&T, international calls. So my bills were like $1,000 per month because I was trying to manage freelancers. It was freelancers those days. And so, but it worked. It worked again. And I started to put teams together. And by 2005, I realized, okay, that's a business. I can turn it into real business. You have to travel a lot and to build this business because we have 7 offices, as I said. Each office far away. It's Ukraine, big country. So we had to build the same standard operation procedures, business practices. So each office built like a silo, and that's helped us right now a lot because we're easy migrating people and integrating them into this silo. So, I travel 5-6 times per year to Ukraine many years before we built Swan, and we've been on market for 17 years, and I would say hundreds and hundreds satisfied clients, and it's a small community. Name and reputation precedes, and we're trying to keep our name. So, and I can even tell that right now, almost months in the war, we did not lose any single client. We did not lose any single developer. I'm not kidding. Right. Even some of my developers wanted to go and fight, and I understand them. I'd do the same. but I told them, guys, your weapon is a keyboard. You are not good with the guns. I was in the army. I was in the elite forces, and I tell you, after after so many years, I need to have long training before I can get back.
Mm-hmm.
And you never shot a gun. So let's work together and let's help Swan, help Ukraine, because Swan is doing a lot for Ukraine. As I said, we're between fundraising, political influence, delivering message to American across the board like we're doing right now, newspapers, TV. We're trying to say that, to explain American why regular average Joe Blow should pay for high prices, because we put ban on Russian oil and gas, and we explain that it's a small price to pay. If Ukrainians fighting for us right now, otherwise we should have sent our kids to this war. And right now we don't need to, thanks God. So increasing price for gas, small price to pay for craziness which is taking place right now in the world.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
We will catch up again soon.
Thank you, Tony.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Absolutely.